By the time the military realized the truth, the entire facility was already burning. At first, people believed Charizard came for revenge. But they were wrong. She came back for her child. There was never supposed to be anything alive inside the mountain. That was the official explanation. The island had been abandoned for years, too dangerous, too unstable. Too many disappearances no one could explain. But people always return to places they should leave alone, especially when there's something valuable hidden there. The first expedition only expected volcanic activity, heat signatures, ancient caves, maybe rare minerals buried beneath the rock. Instead, they found a nest, hidden deep inside the mountain, surrounded by black volcanic stone and ash. And inside the nest, a single egg, large, warm, still alive. At first, nobody touched it, because nearby, enormous claw marks covered the cave walls. Burn marks stretched across the stone. And something about the silence inside the mountain felt wrong, like something was watching from deeper in the dark. But curiosity is stronger than fear. So the egg was taken, carefully loaded into a transport container, and flown back to the mainland before sunrise. And far above the clouds, something saw it happen. At first, nobody understood the danger. The egg became a scientific discovery overnight. News channels talked about it constantly. Experts argued about what species could possibly survive inside an active volcano. But the truth was far worse than anyone imagined. Because somewhere far beyond the mountains, a Charizard was searching, not hunting, searching. The first signs appeared only days later. Burned forests, destroyed watchtowers, entire valleys blackened by fire. Witnesses described a massive creature flying through the smoke at night, its wings large enough to block out moonlight. People called it a monster. But monsters don't search desperately through storms. Monsters don't return to the same places over and over again. And monsters don't cry. Back inside the research facility, the egg finally began to crack. Scientists crowded around the glass enclosure as tiny fractures spread across the shell. And then, something small emerged. A Charmander, weak, confused, barely able to stand. The room immediately changed, because suddenly this wasn't a discovery anymore. It was a child. The scientists tried to calm it, to feed it, to study it carefully. But Charmander constantly searched the room for something that wasn't there. Its mother. At night, security cameras captured strange behavior inside the facility. Charmander would sit silently near the windows for hours, listening, waiting. And every time distant thunder echoed outside, the flame on its tail grew brighter, as if somehow it could feel Charizard getting closer. Meanwhile, the attacks became worse. Entire military convoys disappeared near the mountains. Search helicopters returned melted and damaged. Roads were destroyed overnight by enormous claw marks and fire. Panic spread quickly. The government declared Charizard an immediate threat, a dangerous apex predator searching for human population centers. But they were wrong. Charizard wasn't attacking cities. Charizard was following a trail. The scent of humans, the scent of metal, the scent of the child that had been stolen. And with every passing day, the search became more desperate. Inside the facility, Charmander slowly became weaker. Not physically, emotionally. It stopped eating properly, stopped reacting to people, stopped sleeping. The scientists didn't understand why, until one older researcher finally said something nobody else wanted to admit. Maybe it isn't dangerous because it hates us. Maybe it's dangerous because we took something from it. Nobody answered, because deep down, everyone already knew it was true. But by then, it was too late. The military had already surrounded the facility. Floodlights lit the surrounding mountains all night long. Anti-air weapons were placed across the rooftops. Fighter helicopters circled endlessly through the sky. Everyone prepared for war. Meanwhile, Charmander continued waiting near the windows every single night. Not afraid, hopeful. Then one evening, everything suddenly went silent. No helicopters, no alarms, no radio chatter. Just wind, and somewhere high above the clouds, the sound of enormous wings moving through the darkness. The power inside the facility failed seconds later. Every light shut off at once. Emergency alarms immediately screamed through the building as backup generators struggled to activate. And outside, something enormous landed on the roof. The impact shook the entire structure. Security cameras flickered violently before cutting to static. Then came the fire. Not random destruction, not chaos. Controlled. Walls melted open one by one as Charizard searched room after room inside the facility. Not hunting humans, searching for Charmander. Soldiers opened fire immediately. Helicopters surrounded the building. Floodlights lit up the sky. But Charizard ignored almost everything until the soldiers blocked the final containment room. That's when the real destruction began. The firestorm that followed could be seen from miles away. Glass exploded outward. Vehicles overturned. Metal walls collapsed beneath the heat. Entire sections of the facility disappeared behind smoke and flames. And inside the containment room, Charmander finally heard something familiar. A roar, not angry, calling. Charmander immediately ran toward the destroyed entrance. And for the first time since the egg was taken, the fear disappeared from its eyes. Outside the burning facility stood Charizard. Massive, exhausted, covered in ash and burns from the battle, but completely focused on one thing: Charmander. For a moment, everything became still. The helicopters stopped firing. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Even the fire itself seemed quieter. Because suddenly everyone understood the truth. This had never been about revenge, never about destruction. A mother had crossed mountains, storms, military blockades, and fire, simply trying to find her child. Charmander slowly walked closer, and Charizard lowered its head carefully toward the tiny Pokémon. Not like a monster, like a parent terrified of losing something precious. The small flame on Charmander's tail reflected in Charizard's eyes as the two finally reunited. And after everything that had happened, Charizard didn't attack anyone, didn't roar, didn't destroy the facility further. It simply turned away, protecting Charmander beneath one enormous wing, then disappeared back into the smoke and mountains before sunrise. By morning, the facility was almost completely destroyed. But the strangest thing wasn't the damage. It was the silence afterward. No more attacks, no more firestorms, no more sightings in the sky. Only rumors. Stories from distant villages describing a giant shadow flying above the mountains at sunset. And sometimes, a much smaller shadow flying beside it. Far away from humans, far away from laboratories, far away from cages, together.